I'm going to start with a quote from Justice William O. Douglas, commenting on the Brady v. Maryland opinion. And that quote reads, "Society wins not only when the guilty are convicted, but when criminal trials are fair. Our system of the administration of justice suffers when any accused is treated unfairly." This video is going to be about Barry Morphew's last court date and the Kyles v. Whitley case that kept being brought up by Barry's defense attorneys, and what that case was about and how this pertains to Barry. Welcome to Another Day in the Car. I'm Jules. Before we get started, I'd like to ask you all to subscribe if you haven't already done so, like and share my videos, and as always, please comment. Now let's get going. In court, Barry's attorneys were asking for lots of pieces of evidence that are supposed to be released anyway. But once I read the Kyles v. Whitley case, I understood more fully what they were implying and why they were feeling the need to be so meticulous in stating what they wanted to have released. And in the Kyles v. Whitley case, a man named Kyles was arrested and convicted for the murder of a woman in a parking lot. The person or main person who testified against him was a guy with the nickname of Beanie, and it turns out that Beanie probably should have been a suspect himself in this, but the police never released Beanie's conflicting statements to the defense and only released the most likely to get a conviction. And there were a few different pieces of evidence that were not released to the defense by the prosecution in that case. And it's quite possible that the jury would have come to a different conclusion had they heard all of the evidence. In that case, there was an eyewitness who basically made the case against Kyles by identifying Kyles in court as being the person that committed the murder, but his original statement to police was never used at trial and was never released to the defense. And the original testimony actually described the murderer as being someone who fit the description of that fellow Beanie rather than the guy Kyles who was convicted. The eyewitness said that the killer was 19 or 20 years old, about 5'4" or 5 feet 5 inches tall, 140 to 150 pounds, with a medium build, and that his hair looked like it was braided. And at that time, Kyles was 6 feet tall, thin, with a thin build, and bushy styled hair. It's quite possible that Beanie had been trying to frame Kyles because he also got $1,600 in reward money, so he was paid for turning Kyles in. Plus, he was having a romantic relationship with Kyles' girlfriend. And so that kind of explains some of the stuff that they were asking in court, because they said that they wanted copies of all of the witness statements and the recordings of all of the witness statements, and they wanted to know whether anyone had previous convictions, whether anybody had any kind of deals going on. Another thing is that they have been asking for the mental health records, which they're not going to get, at least not at this time, of the witnesses because of privacy issues. But it turns out that one of the people that testified against Kyles was an inmate who had schizophrenia and stated that he heard Kyles say something when he was locked up, and I don't know whether that guy turned out to be lucid or not, or knew what was going on. But anyway, that would be maybe why they were asking about that. And then the fact that Beanie was paid money, received money because of giving information that led to Kyle's being arrested and sent to prison, going to trial and being sent to prison, that's probably why Barry's defense attorneys were asking to know whether or not any of the witnesses have been compensated. So anyway, long and the short of the whole Kyle's thing is that eventually he had his charges dismissed in that case, and he was released from prison, and he received $150,000 in state compensation because the prosecution had not released crucial evidence and only admitted the evidence that made Kyle's look guilty. So, with all that in mind, Barry is to be considered innocent until he's proven guilty, if he's proven guilty. And so I'm trying to keep an open mind in this case. I do realize that there are several things that don't quite add up, including my own experience in Broomfield where I could smell chlorine. It wasn't the way that Jeff and Morgan described it. So, obviously they experienced something different than me, or, they're more sensitive to it than me, or whatever, but Barry stated that he smelled it too. So I think that we can't conclude anything from that unless they found some physical evidence. And until that evidence is made known, at least for me, there is the possibility of some doubt. So at this point in time, we should just keep open minds and wait for this whole thing to unfold and let the legal system do what the legal system is there to do. And I appreciate all of your comments, and I know that there's people that feel very strongly one way or the other in this case, and I think it really helps to talk it out in the comments below. And I am just going to try to be as unbiased as possible. I do admit that I do not like Barry or people like him, his type of person, but that does not mean he's guilty, and I need to step back and not go so much with my gut and go more with my mind. And I am an advocate for victims. I get especially worked up over domestic violence because these are people that have been betrayed by the people that are supposed to love them the most. And so I was taking this case far more personally, and I'm going to try to bring you guys unbiased facts of the case and let you come to your own conclusions. Thank you for watching Another Day in the Car with Julez.